So this is lab number 15 out of your book. Has to do with jump starting. I want to make sure that you understand the proper way to jump start a vehicle with jumper cables. We also nowadays in the industry have jumper packs that are like this. So this is just a jumper pack. These are super straightforward and simple. All you do with these is just hook up to the battery your red to your positive and your black to your negative, and then they're already ready to go, and it's like bringing another battery to the equation. This is super common to use in the industry nowadays, but to kind of be a good Samaritan and use a set of jumper cables, that's an option for us as well. And so jumper cables are going to be set up like this. You want to make sure when you're getting a set of jumper cables that you get a good set. There's cheap sets of jumper cables that are out there that don't have very good size wire gauge. So they have a lot of insulation on them. They want them to look better quality than what they actually are. But be careful if you have a real cheap set of jumper cables, because some of them look like they have thick wire, but they'll only have like 10 gauge wire on the inside. And so you can light them on fire if you are trying to jump start a car that has a completely dead battery. Because you'll pull more current through those wires than what the gauge wire is capable of. So the lab for this is going to be jump starting dead batteries. You know you got a dead battery if you have low voltage at a battery. A fully charged battery would be 12.65 volts. And really, when we get down to 11.7 of our battery, it's considered completely dead. One of the really simple tests that you can do to see if you've got a dead battery on a car is just to try to turn the headlights on. And so if you turn the headlights on and they're dim or they don't come on at all, then that's a good sign that the battery's dead. A lot of times with dead batteries, you try to crank it and you get nothing, or you get a click, 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 click type of sound. And so that's an indication that the battery's dead. Turn the headlights on if they're dim, or if they're on and they look like they're on and you try to start and then they dim and go out, then that's a good indication that you've got a dead battery. The setup for this lab is just a cart that I have set up to represent the good battery or the car that you're bringing to the equation to jumpstart from. It's labeled with your positive and negative, and so we're going to start out by following the instructions that are there in that lab book. But I'll usually like to get my cables kind of separated out and make sure that I get my cables separated here. So we're going to start by hooking up our positive cable to our jumper car. So we'll get our positive cable hooked up to our jumper car. Then we're going to get our positive cable hooked up to our dead battery there on this car. Then you'll hook your ground cable up to your jumper car. And then the last one, this is where people usually make a mistake, is that the last one that you hook up, you don't go straight to the battery, because the last one that you hook up is going to complete the circuit between your good battery and your dead battery. And then your good battery is going to try to balance out and push a ton of electricity into this dead battery to get it charged back up. They'll try to balance out the state of charge of those two batteries. And so the last one you hook up is going to spark. Well, we don't want sparks anywhere near this battery. And so you're going to find something metal on the car that's at least a foot away from the battery so that it doesn't spark when you hook your last one up. That's ideal. There's a little ground right here. You can go to the strut mounts a lot of times. You can find metal on the block or tabs or brackets or things like that. On this car, there's a nice metal spot on the intake manifold that I can clip to there. And so a lot of times when you're jump starting, you may, on your jumper car that is in good shape, you may want to sit there and let it run. Higher RPMs will produce more alternator amperage and output, and so you may want to let it run there as it tries to charge up that battery. Try to start the car. If it doesn't start right away and you've got good connections, then make sure that you just let it run and charge, and it may take a little bit to get the dead battery charged up enough to where it'll start that car. Once you get the car started, Then we're going to disconnect in reverse order. So the last one we hooked up will be the first one we take off. Then our ground on our jumper car. Then we can hook up and disconnect our other leads. So you just go in reverse order one at a time. The big thing that you want to make sure that you never have is that you don't want both ends of those hooked up to the battery first, because that would make these live to where then they would spark if they were to touch each other or even touch something metal on the car. So be careful about that. Make sure that you don't do it. You don't just hook up to this car first and then go willy-nilly. So positive, negative, negative, but to something metal at least a foot away. Then disconnect in reverse order. That's your jump starting lap.